we are going to speak about some very fascinating aspect of Patachitra in Bengal that are found in 19th, 20th century and even before, where as we see in today's context that the stylistic differences are very limited. Still, it's full of variety, but still, as compared to the previous, the older ones, we see that the differences are much minimum because of many reasons. Because of the division between the societies, fortunately, is reducing. Though it's a very generalized statement that I am making on the basis of fewer facts, but still there is some indication in the direction. So, I'll talk about 2-3 different styles from the districts of West Bengal. Those are situated very close by, and they're the adjoining districts in a small state. So, it's very interesting to see how different districts, it's not only the different states of a country, but even different districts have different styles of their own, which is very distinctive in their visual identity. So I'm picking up a common topic like Ramayan, and I'm using that as the example to understand the phenomenon. In fact, let me just express quite a few things before we go to the examples, that there are quite a few common features that are found in most of the cases where the practices are not so widespread right now. It's concentrated in fewer centers, but it's happening in a higher form. So we cannot say that the practice is like under some limitation. It's happening in a very different order, that though they are taking place in fewer centers, but the quality of the artwork and also the rigor that is going on in the artwork is having a different dimension altogether. So, let's talk about the stylistic features that are generally found in West Bengal. That is the context of our discussion right now. So, the portraits in the Patachitra of the district called Birbhum are either in 3/4 views, that is a profile view. It's either in 3/4 views or full frontal with joined eyebrows. An Indian red ground, a compulsory frame or border, flower, fruits, or just dots to decorate them. In Bankura, that's another district, what we see that the faces are in profile, the drapes of the deities are embedded with floral motifs. One can also observe here that the knotted and plate-like line and the patterns that are in Indian color, Indian red color, that is always there in the base. Also, the Patachitras of Hooghly district, that is a small district, have a dark brown base with execution in linear pattern that is known as Rekha Mandala Bala. So, it's a combination of lines. Rekha is line. So, painting of Manbhum show a confined place, that the space of it is restricted, a frontal approach with impressions of deep Indian red, white and yellow color that is predominant over there. The Santhal Pargana, that's another region. The colors are usually green, blue, yellow. Salutes are on white base, and the images have a childlike rendering with studied spontaneity, and two-dimensional motifs are also seen there. Now, let's move to the Ramayan of Birbhum from 19th century Bengal, which is a 17 panel Patachitra. It's a painted scroll that I've chosen for my topic that is the medium is paper and cloth together, and I've done the documentation in Guru Sadar Museum. The scroll number is 1652, 27 feet by and 3 inches by 2 feet and 4 inches as the size of the artwork. So let's see that, and I'll show you the images and also explain you the thematic meaning of that. So in the first frame we see Dasharatha with Shani, the Saturn. This part is almost damaged, so it's partially shown on top of the frame, but it's in a damaged condition. So what we see in the plate at the at the beginning, it's Dasharatha and Jatayu, and then the hermitage of the blind sage. Dasharatha kills Sindhu. The king brings the corpse to the hermitage. Dead bodies of Sindhu and his parents on the pyre. Dasharatha's 3 queens and some sages. Scene of sacrifice for the birth of a son. Goddess Manasa, the snake goddess. Goddess Kali. Goddess Durga. Goddess Durga and dead Ravana. Dead Ravana, reunion of Rama, Lakshmana and Sita, king of death. The continuation of the 14th section, the king of death, Yama. Then a hell scene in 3 sections, and then the last frame with Jagannatha Trinity, which is different from Vishnu, and I'll show a detail of that in the next slide. So the hell scene and the Jagannatha Trinity, and then the departure or the exit of all the characters. That's how it ends. So what we observed in this scroll of Ramayana, that it has the typical feature of Birbhum's Patachitra, where the faces are either in 3/4 view, as I explained in the beginning, or it's totally frontal. It's roundish. It also have joined eyebrows. That is a very typical feature of Birbhum's Patachitra. It has a base which is quite flat, made of Indian red color. It's also true that there are lots of overlapping that is taking place, but there is no ground made as such. It's all made. It's almost like a cut collage sort of images that are cut and pasted in that form on the flat Indian red ground throughout. At the same time, there are amazing treatment to create volume on the faces and other limbs, and that too it's not very recent. So the kind of artwork that I'm using as example, they're from the old Patachitra, the traditional ones. And what we see here is the use of volume that is quite sophisticated in its rendering, and the borders are having dots, flowers, etc., and that is almost a mandatory factor here. Each of those 17 frames had frames in it, so they were confined at the same time because of the similar figurations, the repetitive motifs, and specifically for the continuation in the motifs in the border, they're putting them together and gives it a sense of vertical continuity that keeps the story going. This is also very important to remember that a story like Ramayana doesn't need too many frames because it is assumed that the story is known to everybody. So when somebody is showing certain image or they are trying to illustrate certain idea, it's already known that the image is there in the mind of the audiences. So they have chosen the key frames from the uh, long epic. And this is also another observation that we must make here, that the stories are not just there. It's already like known that there had been one oration that was that came with it. But even without the oration or the storytelling, the stories can survive, or that could stand as individual images. And there lies the self sufficient and complete nature of this kind of Patachitras. So, we'll see the next row of painting from another district, and that is most interesting here. So, if we pick up the Patachitras of Midnapur, another district situated in West Bengal, we see that the individual characteristics are completely changed there, and it has a clear and distinctive identity that can be very easily figured out. Anybody can make it out that this belongs to a different region. It's coming with a different visual style, keeping in mind that the story is again it's based on the same textual reference, that is Ramayana. So the Ramayana story is depicted in a complete different visual identity in another district in Birbhum, in that is Midnapur, and that is very different from Birbhum. So in the first frame, what we see that Vishwamitra's visit to Dasharatha and Rama and Lakshmana killing Taraka and other demon. The picture is again, it's a 20th century Patachitra with 14 panels from the same museum, the Guru Sadhya Museum. The number of the scroll is 1646 and it's 18 feet 7 inches by 1 feet 10 inches in size. So it starts with a frame where Vishwamitra visits Dasharatha, and not before that. Rama and Lakshmana killing Taraka and other demons. Demons disturbing the sacrifice of the sages. Lamentation of Dasharatha for exile of Rama. Sages greeting Rama, Sita and Lakshmana. Rama on the way to the forest with Sita and Lakshmana. Rama and Sita engaged in conversation. And see how simply they have separated the space where two people are sitting in isolation and the other things are happening just outside. The amazing spontaneity and simplicity in the artworks are making it very expressionistic. Lakshmana chastising Shurpanakha. Shurpanakha's complaint to Ravana. Marich being the magic deer, that's at the right corner of the frame. So it's a demon in the disguise of the deer. Rama killing the magic deer, the Maya Mriga. Rama, Sita and Lakshmana in the cottage. Sita and Lakshmana in conversation again. Sita and Ravana asks arms to her, Rama's collapse. Suparshva, attempting to draw the chariot of Ravana, Jatayu relating the story of abduction of Sita to Rama. The monkey army of Rama at the gate of Sanaka. Angada as ambassador to Ravana. Fight between Rama and Ravana. Resent of Sita and her fire ordeal. Although Midnapur has become the center now, the village named Nayagram is the place where the entire attention is going in today's time, and they have evolved in terms of the figuration, the subject matters, and the adaptability of new subject matters, new sensibilities. That is the core of folk art, that it should be in a constant mode of change, and it's with the same energy and no stiffness from any side. It's flourishing like anything. So that was a very old form of the same region where they use that. They are keeping up with the same amount of spontaneity, the kind of yellow, the fluorescent yellow that we have seen in the previous pictures, as well as the figuration, the line, the kind of spontaneity, and the studied spontaneity that is shown in the pictures are quite significant in that regard. So I would like you to spend some more time and see the images so that you can make out that how different they are stylistically. And I'm picking up the artworks. I've purposefully chosen the artworks which are very distinctive in their stylistic identity. They can stand out as a visual identity of a particular region which are quite close by. So next we are going to see the Patachitra with the same theme again of Ramayana from another district which is also very close by, that is Murshidabad. And this Patachitra is also collected by Guru Sadar Dutt in 19th century, and it's made in 19th century. So that's the, let's see it. It's a 16 panel image which is 10 feet 10 inches by 2 feet 1 inch. So what we see in the frame, that's the beginning, we see the absence, Rama's alliance to Guhaka, sacrifice of the sages and killing of demon by Rama, marriage of Rama and Lakshmana, marriage scene of Bharata and Shatrughna, the four brothers, Rama's return to Ayodhya along with brothers and Sita and other new brides. Now, I mentioned this in some previous comments, but now this is the example that I would like you to see for a longer time, that the Dasharath image here and also the draperies, the other characters, they have a strong regional identity. The kind of costumes they're wearing, they're typical of that region, which is the Bengali customs and rituals that are added here. And it's so mixed in style that we also see a strong Western Indian influence in the figuration. The kind of sophistication that is found in these artworks are it's very different from the earlier one that we have seen from Midnapur or even from Birbhum. So what we see here is again the flat colored base, which is also made in Indian red, and the figures are all going in one direction in a a symmetrical order which provides it with a lot of dynamism. And it's also there that the figurations, the well defined contours are filled up with flat colors, and by creating contrast the figures are mostly made. But this is also true that the kind of figurations are extremely influenced by the 5th century narrative panels of Ajanta, and I think it has come here through the Western Indian, the Rajasthani miniature paintings, because Murshidabad was the center of the ruling authorities, and they commissioned many artists from the Western India, especially from Rajasthan. So there are perhaps some influence from that side which has come through the court painters, and that gave it this kind of sophistication. And also in the border of the painting we see that things are much more naturalistic and also idealistic as compared to the Patachitras of the same subject that we have seen from Birbhum and Midnapur previously. So in the next frame, the humiliation of Parashurama by Rama on his way to Ayodhya, then the marriage procession. See the dynamism and the asymmetry in the character. It's very forceful. There are overlappings with minimum sense of depth. The sacred reception of the newly married couples, Dasharatha and his son, Kaikeyi and Manthara, seen in the picture. The textiles in many places have resemblance with the local woven clothes of Bengal at that time. Sorrow in the palace at the news of the exile of Rama, death of King Dasharatha, and everybody lamenting all around. Rama on the way to the forest scene, that is the scene of departure. Rama, Sita and Lakshmana on the boat of Chandala king Guhaka. They are on the bank and they are received as guests at the house of Guhaka. Rama, Lakshmana and Sita worshipping Shiva image, and the scroll ends here. So what we've seen in the images are significant for a point that we must also see that the area-wise divisions are much more limited here. There had been some restriction perhaps in all those zones to maintain the identity. So they preserved their cultural identity in all those small little zones, whereas right now it is spreaded and it's evolving in a very rapid way. So we get to see that there are incorporation of newer elements in the artworks which are not often very religious in like in terms of the subject matter. So with that, in the next lecture we are going to see another tradition just to realize how they were restricted. So to understand all those things, I am again taking help of a case study that is done in Raghurajpur, Odisha in our next lecture.